Welcome back to A Game of Fangs and Thorns. My name's Hannah, and this is a weekly reading vlog. And if you saw last week's vlog, you'll know that I was about to start Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I'm now about 123 pages in, and I'm just going to read the back because I'm still not quite sure what's going on in this book, but it is enjoyable. So, a god will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal. But this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Exalia, is a disgraced teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger, described as harmless. The passenger, Serapio, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. And as Exalia well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. Crafted with unforgettable characters, Rebecca Roanhorse's epic adventure exploring the decadence of power amidst the weight of history and the struggle of individuals swimming against the confines of society and their broken pasts is the most original series debut of the decade. And I mean, they are quite fun. Each chapter seems to be from a different perspective, and so far we are following Serapio, Exalia, and the sun priest herself, who is Naranpo, I meant to say, but she's also Naranpa, sorry. She, also known as Nara. And each chapter seems to be counting down. The first chapter was in Serapio's perspective, and it was quite brutal. His mother blinds him and has been carving out his back as a religious fanatic, which plays into this event called the Convergence. We are counting down to it, and I have a feeling that everything's going to go wrong when Exalia and Serapio hit Tova. So that's going to be fun, and I shall let you know what happens. This must have been from Forbidden Planet because this copy is so floppy. But it's too hot to really do anything but chill. So it's now Thursday. I'm not naked. I have a vest top on. It's just I know when you see just straps, but it's Thursday morning. I'm on a work from home day, and I finished Black Sun last night, so you can't see it, but yes, you can. Just I'm working on the review. I find it helps to write things down, and obviously as I use the core file system from Book Roast, it helps me to break it down to get a more fair and accurate rating. My first impressions, I'm going to put this pen down, hang on. My first impressions are that I think this will be a 3-star. It was a solid, enjoyable read. I don't think it did anything too special, but basically, if you don't know, I think I gave you a rough synopsis, or at least read the back. But if you don't know, we follow Exalia, who is a teak pirate. Not pirate, she's a sailor, and the teak are kind of like sirens. She is feared and respected for her song. She can calm waters and hypnotize people, basically. So, this world's sirens, this world's mermaid. Then we also follow Serapio, who is the... Does it say what he is? Because I think it does. It's very much implied throughout the book, but it's whether or not it says it at the beginning. I think it's implied, but it's not in the first chapter, but Serapio is described as his mother by a godlet. While she is mutilating him, she blinds him and is carving the ceremonial traditional scarification that his clan have. I know Roanhorse identifies as First Nation Indigenous American, and I think a lot of that comes through in this book, especially the discussions between the Torven priests and the Crow clan, the Carrion Crow clan. It's an interesting one because we see that through both a member of the Crow clan and a member of the priesthood, the big honcho priest. So we know what's been done from both sides. And while I agree with the Crow clan that the priests are evil for what they've done, I can't condone what the Crows are doing, and the priests don't seem to realise what they've gotten themselves into. And I am so pale, I am blending into the wall. All you can see is hair. So for that, for the plot and how it ends and everything, it is a solid story. And there's just something about it that I couldn't quite get behind until... I can't tell you. But obviously Exalia and Serapio are on a boat. They get close. Serapio has a destiny. Exalia figures it out. And I did like the ending, because I was worried and because this is the first in the series, I did wonder where this was going, because it did feel like it was leading up to the big confrontation. It's a very clever way of getting out of doing the big confrontation and leading on to the next books in the series. And yes, I think they are unforgettable. Because I mean, I can still remember Exalia's name, Serapio's name, Nara's name. Can't can't remember the Crow clan's name, but I know who he is. So yes, I think they all stand on their own. I just personally didn't enjoy it because this was a 432 page book. Oh, his name is Okoa. There we go. I knew it began with an O. So we have that, and we also have the history of the world that was there. The world building was minimal, but exquisite at the same time. To me, it read like an Aztec society or Mayan, that kind of vibe, and they paid in cocoa. I know that's a very stereotypical and probably incorrect sentence for the Mayans, Aztecs, but it's true for this book, and it just gave me that sort of ancient Mexican, South American feel that I thoroughly enjoyed. I kind of feel like that Tova is based on Machu Picchu. I could be wrong, I probably am wrong, but I will write the review, run it through Corpile, and then come back and see if the Corpile matches my initial feeling, which was a 3. I like using Corpile because based on enjoyment, everything gets a higher rating for me, which isn't fair because there are some books that I absolutely adore as a 5-star and others where I just think, but they're not quite there. So I don't know. I like Corpile. It takes the guesswork out of it. But yeah, I will write that up and come back to you when I have more to say. So it's about lunchtime and I ordered Burger King. But I did finish the blanket. I say finish, it's updated. It won't be finished until December. But we have a row for, what did I just read? Black Sun. Oh, excuse me. Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. So that's that undone. My laptop's just gone. Beeped at me hands. Fine. And I did run it through Corpile, and it was what I thought it would be. It did come out at a 3-star. So I was right. It was a good 3-star, but it wasn't a fun 3-star in the same way that Murder at the Village Fate was. That was last week's surprise, I would say. But we're about to start The Lights of Prague by Nicole Jarvis. Please excuse the empty coffee cup and Coke in the background there. But I don't really remember much about this one other than Prague. I've been to Prague. I thought it was a very pretty and hot city. And I think this is vampires, but we shall read the synopsis and I shall come back to you when I've started it with my initial thoughts. So, in the quiet streets of Prague, all manner of mysterious creatures lurk in the shadows. Unbeknownst to its citizens, their only hope against a tide of predators are the dauntless lamplighters, secret elite monster hunters whose light staves off the darkness each night. Domek Miska leads a life teeming with fraught encounters with the worst kind of evil. Pihavish, bloodthirsty and soulless vampiric creatures. Despite this, Domek finds solace in his moments spent in the company of his friend, the clever and beautiful Lady Aura Ficharova, a widow with secrets of her own. When Domek finds himself stalked by the spirit of the White Lady, a ghost who haunts the Baroque halls of Prague Castle, he stumbles across a sentient essence of a will-o'-the-wisp captured in a mysterious container. Now, as its bearer, Domek wields its power, but the wisp, known for leading travellers to their deaths, will not be so easily controlled. After discovering a conspiracy against the Pihavish, I think I'm saying that right, that could see them unleash terror in the daylight world, Domek finds himself in a race against those who aim to twist alchemical science for their own dangerous game. I haven't heard many people talk about this, but then again, I don't really follow many people who talk about older books, I think. No, someone must have mentioned it for me to be interested, but it still sounds interesting, and I shall let you know my thoughts when I get around to reading it. A little bit late. I mean, I am rather red just from sitting out in the garden. So, note to self, remember to put on sun cream next time. This will probably fade in a couple of days. I don't tend to burn or tan for very long. But I said I would give you an update on the lights of Prague. That looks really weird backwards. But I did start this earlier. I'm on page 100, so this is like a 413 page book. I gave you a synopsis a little bit earlier. Well, it'd be like 5 seconds ago for you, but it's been a couple of hours for me. But what's interesting so far is that Domek is for all intents and purposes, he is a vampire monster hunter, and Ora, O-R-A, is a Pihavish. Pihavish? It's spelled, the plural is P-I-J-A-V-I-C-E. And the singular is mentioned somewhere. I think it's the same, but it has an A instead of an E at the end. But she's one of those. They both have a crush on each other. This is adult. They are about late 20s, early 30s, I would say. They are adults, so anything that happens between them would be legal and consensual, I'm hoping. But like I say, they both have a crush on each other. I don't think either one is aware of what the other is or does, and it's an interesting one so far. It is told in joint perspective, so we get both Aura and Domek's perspective, third person, which I think is helping. I don't think it's a 5-star because some of the conversation, Aura's perspective is a little bit dry to me. Through her we get the politics and the history of the world, and how Prague, this alternate historical Prague, is working, with all of the Pihavish thrown in there. She's friends with the general or a trusted advisor from the emperor. This is set in, I don't know European history as well as I should, but this is set when, if this means anything to anybody, in the 7 Weeks War, 2 years before, this isn't spoiled on page 59, he had served with someone in the 7 Weeks War 2 years before, but had been kept busy since then with the recent absorption of Hungary into the Austrian Empire. So that gives you a gist of when this is set. I think it's 1930s, I want to say, maybe a little bit earlier. Lamp lighting is a new thing, and they are still very much on the hunt for very much in the alchemical movement, hunting for that substance that turns everything into gold, or the Philosopher's Stone, the elixir of life. And it is very interesting to read from Aura's perspective because she is a civilized Pihavish, whereas through Domek's perspective, we get more of the action. He has found the will o' the wisp, and that is now bound to him, and it is a very mischievous energy. Takes things very literal, which I think is an interesting take on how the wisps work. It gives malevolent genie of the lamp vibes, but European rather than Arabian. So I think wisps are more European than genies, but it gives that kind of energy. Not Robin Williams energy, but malevolent, worse than Jafar jinn energy. Takes him at his word. There is a scene where Dominic is testing out the will, his control over the wisp, and the wisp's powers. He says to the wisp, "Clear the alley." And the wisp takes him literally and tries to strangle Dominic with his own bag. And then turns around and says, "Well, he's told me to clear the alley." So you can guess that their relationship is a bit strained. And then we have had 2 sightings of the woman in white, the white lady, both by Dominic, or at least Dominic has been present when the lady has been seen. And I am very intrigued as to what's going on. The relationship between Aura and Dominic, because Aura is a respected, if not slightly eccentric member of nobility. She's lady, and I think she's lady in her own right, following the death of her husband. And Dominic is a lowly lamplighter and part-time mechanic, which is how they know each other. So it's an interesting one. What's nice so far is that even though Dominic has this what's the word I'm looking for? He has this very dangerous and secretive job. His mother knows, and he's able to sort of explain and ask some things to her. It is his mother who tells Dominic that the little thing he has found in a container in the dead vampire, I'm going to call them vampires because I can't say it, in the first Pavish's pocket is a bound will of the wisp. So it's his mother that tells him about that, and then he goes on to a bookshop where inevitably he runs into Aura again. Now Aura is very cool, very calculated, and she does seem to have that air of mystery about her, but I think people are putting that down to the fact that she is a widow, a young widow at that. Well, at least she looks young. It's hinted that she's at least a couple of 100 years older and was turned pretty young. There hasn't been much talk about how the turning happens, but there is rumours of a cure. Aura gets involved in this mystery because she witnesses a Pavich pretty much commit suicide, raving on about a cure. So this may have been better for Summerween, or even when the weather starts to get a little bit cooler, because I am struggling in this heat. Not enough to put it down and try something lighter, but just, struggling. I'm not built for the heat, as the tops of my arms and my chest will attest to, because look at that difference. So that's me in for the rest of the night now. But I am working from home again tomorrow, so there is that. So it's Friday, we're still home working, and not much is happening. My sunburn redness seems to be not as bad as yesterday. I don't think it's not as hot to the touch, but I have the Disney binder right here. This didn't come with it, but I was sick of losing track of colours, so I cut it. So it's just a plain bit of A4 paper, but for the binders, you know, the ones I'm talking about. And then I punched a hole down the side for every colour of wool I have, and then obviously just matched up the name of the colour with the colour itself. And it's a handy little bookmark. So I'll probably be working on a couple of them. I can't wait to start putting it together because this bag is getting full. But we shall just get to it. It's now Friday night. Have I read any more of The Lights of Prague? Last night, yes. Today, no. I'm on page 171, which is chapter 14. So I think I'm probably not quite halfway. I am enjoying it. We are still getting more action from Domek's side of things and more of the political intrigue the world set up with Aura. But we did get a little bit of action with Aura. She went to go see her creator, and that didn't exactly end well for her. She's still alive. This will be a very short story if one of the others died. But I started a square, I think I told you at lunchtime. But I get the Disney Crochet magazine. I'm sure I've told you before. I think I even told you before, but I did a square. This is the Mickey Mouse popcorn square, I believe it's called. Mix of popcorn stitch and granny square. Very impressed with myself. And then I'm working on what's called the red apple square. This is the background. It's so very cute. So it's a Friday night. What am I going to do? I'm going to hopefully get up to date with the crochet blankets. I have 38 issues, and that the red apple square, well, the pink square, is issue 35. But some of the issues have 2 squares in them, so we shall see. And I am still rocking the same nails. Did I show you these? I don't think I did. But we have, it's like a witchy set. The thumb is the same as the little finger, but we have some leaves, a potion bottle, a snake, and a little crescent moon with some stars in the thumb. Is the same, but these have stayed on since Tuesday. It's now Friday. That's a record for me. Touch wood, because last time I said that they fell off the next day, didn't they? Yeah, it's a fun Friday night for me. So it's Saturday. I finished The Lights of Prague by Nicole Jarvis. I think I read the back of this when I started. But basically we follow Tomek, who is a monster hunter in the city of Prague in the 1800s. His day job, as it were, is a lamplighter. That's what he tells people he is. But to the lamplighters themselves, they know there's more to it than that. They actually are monster hunters and are tasked with keeping the city of Prague free from disaster. he is a very strong, stoic individual. He's very loyal, and that gets tested in more ways than one. His worldview also gets tested as well in the form of Lady Aura Fichirova. Now, we find out fairly early on that Domek has a crush on Aura. She has feelings for him, but she is one of the vampire creatures, the Piavika single. So there is that complication. Neither one knows what the other does or is at the start of the book, and my ringers just got stuck in my hair. Hang on. There we go. Curses of curly hair and rings. The story starts with Domek hunting, coming across a Piavika who was feeding on an innocent woman in the alley. Domek obviously does his job, but when he dispatches the Piavish, the vampire creature, he notices that there is a strange jar among the remains. He picks up the jar, gets branded, and becomes the master to an enslaved will-o'-the-wisp. The European, which gives me the European equivalent of the genie in the bottle. Now, I do like will-o'-the-wisps anyway. They are something that I do want to learn more about, and this is a darker take on them. They primarily are tricksters. There's nothing malevolent in them. They just like to trick travellers into bogs to drown them. But there's nothing malevolent in it, because if you are nice to them, there are stories that the wisps will help you as well, and I think Disney, as Brave, has it right where they say they can change your fate, but it's a discussion for another time. So I gave this a 4-star. As always, oops, we'll just set Olivia off. As always, as I was saying, I have returned to the compile from G Epigrust system, where you rate each individual aspect out of 10 and then get an average. That average then corresponds to a 5-star rating system. So we'll move over. So Light of Prague got a 8 on the compile system, which translates to a 4-star read. For characters, I gave this a 7. Domek and Aura felt well-rounded, they felt well-rooted. Domek was my favourite. He kept to his values. The rest of them just seemed to be there to support Domek and the plot. Atmosphere was a 10. I've been to Prague, and this book transported me there. There's that element of the opulence of the old, and the oppressiveness of the new. No, that's the wrong way around. Basically, there's the decadence of the rich, and then the hard-working people having been oppressed by the rich. And there was that underlying danger as well within the book. It was just perfect. Writing was a 9. It was simple, but it worked well. This is dual perspective between Aura and Domek, and they had a voice, a tone that kind of fit with their personalities. Aura's was sophisticated and cultured and feminine, where it felt feminine, whereas Domek's was simple, to the point, and because of that it felt masculine, but I think that's because of the contrast with Aura's perspective. So I got a 9. Plot 7. It went okay. I did enjoy it, but it just felt weirdly paced. There were some parts that just felt very quick, and others just seemed to drag, so I got a 7. Logic 9. I can't really fault it. Would have liked more on how the alchemy, the alchemical aspects of this worked, but it made sense. It's the 19... No, it's not. It's the 1840s when this is set. Yeah, 1868 when it starts. So that fits for when people were experimenting with alchemy. You know, I think people are still experimenting. It's just evolved from alchemy, turning lead into gold into what we would call chemistry. So that fit. There's also a scene with the electricity, which was interesting. And then overall enjoyment, a 7. This was okay. I probably will reread it. I will recommend it. I just didn't love it, which fits my own personal scale of how I rate things anyway. But loved elements of this. I'm reading my notes here. Loved elements, and while some parts I did rate highly, like the atmosphere in the writing, there were parts that I just didn't enjoy. Some parts were boring. And what's boring for me may not be boring for anybody else. There was a lot of character development, but I just think it needed a little bit more action to get it moving, so it got a 7. So add that all up, divided by 7, you get 8, which is a 4-star, which isn't too shabby. Oh, the last book I have to read on the TBR is the one I was putting off because it's the long one, and that is The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I don't know much about this, and I kind of want to leave it that way. I want to go in blind because this is an epic fantasy series, and I don't really want to spoil myself or give expectations based on what I've heard, because I know Becca from Becca in the Books is reading this, and I think she's a little bit further in, so I'm trying to keep away from, not that she's spoiling it, but you know, I just don't want to get any expectations of what's happening from people who are further in. But that being said, that was my 45th book of the year, and I want to read 100. So we are getting there. So as I don't know if I mentioned it before, but it is Saturday. So it's still early. I think it's only it's 20 to 4. And so I'll probably write for a bit. I think I gave you a little b-roll from that last night. And I will probably come back to you when I've read a little bit of The Wheel of Time, so I know what's going on. And then I shall come back to you when I know what's going on. little bit later, I did manage to write another chapter of Little Piece of Magic. I've talked to you about this before, and if you are interested, I will do a video on that. I have started The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, specifically the first book, The Eye of the World. So I'll just read the back, because as you can see, I'm not far in. I've read the prologue and chapter 1, which takes me to page 27 of 700 and 771. So I have about this much to read. This is the Amazon cover, well, the TV tie-in, and it does have a signature. But this is the first book, The Eye of the World. When their village is attacked by terrifying creatures, Rand al'Thor and his friends are forced to flee for their lives. An ancient evil is stirring, and its servants are scouring the land for the dragon reborn, the prophesied hero who can deliver the world from darkness. In this age of myth and legend, the wheel of time turns. What was, what may be, and what is may yet fall under the shadow. It's a very vague synopsis, and I think that's the way I want to keep it for this book, so please don't tell me anything. But so far we have had a prologue, which I think is the death of the old dragon reborn. It kind of sets the scene a little bit, it's that much. And then this much is the first chapter, in which we've met Rand, his dad, and they've just been introduced. Rand and his dad are moving from the village they're not moving, they are transporting cider and alcohol from the farm up past the woods, through the woods, to the village for the festival of Beltane. And while on that route, Rand sees a rider dressed all in black, who seems to hate him for no reason. I think, and I'm not going to confirm this, just for spoilers, but I think that was one of the, it's either the evil or its servant, and I think Rand might be the dragon reborn. But I'm not 100%, you never know, it might be one of those ones where you follow one character to get the story going, and then it ends up that this isn't Rand's story, it is somebody else's story, and Rand is just telling the story. I don't know what I'm doing with this blanket, but it's an Illumicrate one, inspired by the Folk of the Air, but it's a very soft, comfy blanket, and it's nice on my sunburn. Because yes, I am admitting it's sunburn now, and not caught the sun patches. I'm lucky it hasn't blistered, so I'm happy. But it's about 8:30, so I shall just read until I fall asleep and then probably come back to you tomorrow. I don't see myself finishing this tonight or even tomorrow, so it will probably be just carried on until next week, because it's halfway through the month, we've got time. But yeah, I shall see what's happening. So I think that's it for this update. So it's Friday. No, it's not. It's Sunday. Get it right, Anna. It's Sunday, end of the week. It's about 11 o'clock. I've had a nice lazy morning, to the point where I woke up and played on my phone for about an hour. And then I did watch a couple of YouTube videos as well, and then I changed the bed sheets over, which in heat, it's always fun in my room because 1, my room is tiny, 2, my room is usually one of the hottest in the house, and 3, I have lots of blankets. But I did it, and it looks all cozy again. I did lose a pillowcase, but I'm sure that'll turn up. So, and then the rest of the morning was spent just popping this vlog together, you know, doing the... When I say edits, I don't really edit, and I think you guys can tell. I just put all the clips together in order that somewhat makes sense, and speed some of it up and add music. But we are going to be working on The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I'm not even 100 pages in, but it looks so much more than I actually am. I'm on page 69, which is about to start chapter 5. And I am getting to grips with it. It does feel very classic, I want to say. The only thing I can confirm it to be like a comp title, just in terms of the writing style, is probably Tolkien. This gives Lord of the Rings vibes, which I mean it makes sense because Lord of the Rings was probably one of the first fantasy books of this scale, and then Wheel of Time probably just took that basic style, that basic premise, and expanded it. I can think of the word there. And yes, I think it's going to be a slow-paced one where things just build up. I mean, this first book is about 700. I'm sure I've told you how much it is, but 771 pages, and then I think the rest of them are probably about that size. So next week's vlog will probably just focus on Eye of the World, and it probably will have spoilers because the more I get in to it, the more I want to talk about it. And when I'm like this far through, I'm not going to be able to talk about what's happening without spoilers. But so far, it's okay. It's setting everything up. I'm getting to know that Rand is a young boy and of marrying age, which probably makes him about 16, 17. I would say, just going by my own experiences with fantasy when they say that. And he seems to be very protective of his friends. This first couple of chapters has been more about setting up the world than the character, I would say, but we are getting glimpses into how this works. Rand seems to be okay at the moment, but I'm sure I've mentioned before, I know Becca from Becca in the Books doesn't really like his perspective very much. She prefers some of the others that we meet later on, but we shall see how I feel. I just want some fantasy in my life, some epic fantasy, so this will be it. And this is the last book of my June TBR, so I'm feeling good about just cracking on with this for the last week and a half. No, it's 2 weeks till the end of June. Either way. And so I think I'm probably just going to end the vlog here. There may be some, I think, B-rolly clips at the end if I remember to put them in, but I think this is the official end of the vlog. So give this video a like if you like it, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see this, talk about these, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.